Are and whatever time you're listening, welcome to this Zoomcast of Jesus, Hands and Feet. And today we're interviewing Bishnu Regmi, who's been a friend of mine, an associate at Harvest for a long time. And my co-host, Julian Gibb, is with me on this Zoomcast. And Bishnu, we're really looking forward to our time together. And I'd like to ask, because you have such a very interesting background, what are all the jobs that you've had since you graduated from university?
Thank you, Bill, for this opportunity. You mean here or back in Nepal?
Oh, back in Nepal, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, uh, excuse me. I need to turn off my phone. Sorry, I forgot to do that.
That would be a good idea.
Yeah. Yeah, I came to Christ sometimes in 1990. I was just 16 years old, and right that time, and I was just started the college, and I think almost the same time, just right after my conversion to Christ from Hindu family, I involved with the church, youth, and later I served as a church deacon and elders. And at the same time, I think after a couple of years, I was able to serve. I had a privilege to serve my church as a pastor. It's one of the historical churches in Nepal. On the other hand, as my career, I involved with various non-profit, starting United Mission to Nepal. Later, I served with World Wildlife Fund, and World Vision until 2002. As a family, I moved to Philippines for my MD and MA. And after returning from Philippines, I served the church as a pastor. At the same time, we started a school. I served as a bivocational pastor almost for 5 years until we moved to United States in 2011.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, serving the Lord, and at the same time starting the school, working with various nonprofit organizations.
Okay. And then how did you come to Harvest?
Oh, that was a connection in 2000, I think 2004, when I think you're in Thailand, and we came to Manila, and we had a If Jesus Were Mayor seminar in Philippines.
Mm-hmm.
And I was a part of the student council. I was a student council president, and I had that privilege to get involved with that organizing If Jesus Were Mayor conference that we had over 500 pastors and leaders. And you spoke at that conference, and also got involved with the printing of Jesus or Mayor books. I think that's the first time we had
Yes.
that printed copy, almost 1,000 copy.
Yes.
And yeah, that was a connection. And as I met you in the Philippines in 2004, and 2005, you invited me to the Harvest Conference in Phoenix.
Right. Yeah. And from there you became the director of Harvest work in Nepal. And so, well, this webinar, not webinar, but Zoomcast, and it would be like a webinar, is about Jesus' hands and feet. And I want to be careful in our interviews that we don't lift up the people that we're interviewing, but instead highlight how God has used them to be Jesus' hands and feet. And I remember that time that we met. I don't think it was at that time in the Philippines, but later when I came back to speak at your seminary.
Mm-hmm.
There was an encounter that you had with a young man from Nepal who was really like the prodigal son. And God used you as Jesus' hands and feet in that young man's life. Now, we don't have an hour to tell the story. But very briefly, tell us how God used you and your family to bring him to Christ.
Oh yeah, thank you, Bill, for reminding me that story. Yeah, the brother actually he came to Philippines. Actually, he and his friend they're trying to come to the United States, and they went to China and get the visa, but they were denied, and they ended up flying to Manila, and they thought that they're gonna get the visa. Somebody suggested them, but while they were there, and it took a long time for them, they were in the hotel, and finally they run out of their money. They were just like they enjoy their life, spending $100 a day or more than that, and they run out of money, and they got stuck inside the hotel. Actually, the hotel did not allow them to go out. They asked for their passport, and they seized their passport and all the documents, um, and and we got a call. There's another my friend, and the Pastor BJ, and he got a call, and he told me that Bishnu, and let's go and see this guy. And we are not even went to the hotel, and but they were able to come out of hotel until that time, and we met in a big mall, and they told this story, but it was really hard to believe, and and I think the next day again, that guy called. Shall I mention the name or just to keep the anonymous?
Keep it anonymous.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, and he called and he was very serious and crying, and I was so much tired. The previous night, the whole night, I was working on my three major papers, and I didn't have at all, no sleep at all. And I was thinking of just taking a nap after my class, but once I got that call, and I realized this guy really having hard time, and God spoke to my heart. Why don't you go and meet? Even you don't have resources. Actually, he was expecting some money and help, and we are not that situation because I was a student. We are going through some financial crisis because
And
we
you had
didn't
two
have.
little children in a
Yeah,
tiny little apartment. How
a
many
tiny.
rooms? How
Yeah,
many rooms in your apartment?
the tiny is a kind of less than 500. I think it's almost four. It's a 100 square feet apartment.
100 square.
100 square meter, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So 350
Two
square
tiny
feet.
room, you can have one single bed, and beside that you have just this big space. We had two tiny rooms, and a small kitchen and sitting room, and only maybe this maximum 10 people can
Right.
sleep.
And you
And that
invited him to come and stay with you because he had no place to stay.
Yeah, and we realized maybe this guy really is having hard time, and we called their family back in Nepal. They didn't believe, and even and we requested them to send some money so that we could pay to the hotel. But mom, she did not convince. She was not convinced at the beginning, but later we called, and we told her that it's really a serious matter. Otherwise, yeah, your son will be ended going to the jail. And she said, I think the $500. She gave somebody in the Philippines, then the BJ gave us, and I took that money and gave it to the hotel, and he was out of hotel. And he doesn't have passport, expired ticket, and no place to go. And no choice, and we brought him to our place, and we gave him the one room, and four of us we just stuck in one room. And yeah,
So
and God.
you and
Yeah,
your wife and your two kids,
yeah,
you gave him the bedroom?
yes, yeah.
Wow. Yeah. And so where did you guys sleep?
Yeah, we sleep in the another room, but we had a two tiny room, and the children they sleep in the kitchen.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So, so he was a Hindu, but
Mhm.
what happened to him after he experienced the Lord's love through you?
Yeah, while he was there, we tried to fix his passport and ticket so that we could help him to go return to Nepal. but it took times. And I talked to my seminary, even they did not, they normally don't allow people to stay there for more than a couple of days. And I requested them for 2 weeks for me approval. And finally I got it. And while we are doing that, and I sense a kind of, the feeling that why don't I share the gospel with them, because this is the most important things. And I just grabbed for spiritual law and went through that, and he accepted Christ, and that may be after almost 3-4 days. And he accepted the Lord on that particular day. I still remember that was a Good Friday. And that evening, we went to, there was a small Bible study group, the church we used to attend, and I took him there. And yeah, I still remember that. And the people were happy, and other people also sharing. And he also shared his stories. And that day was his spiritual birthday. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. At the same time, my father, another story. The 2 days earlier, my father died of cancer. Yeah.
Mm.
And I was not able to go back to Nepal because of some financial crisis. And I realized, my father died physically because he already accepted Christ. And someday I had a chance to see him. And I realized God sent that guy to our family, and he accepted Christ like our spiritual son. It's kind of a comforting us, the loss we had. We lost our father.
So in the midst of the loss of your father,
Yeah.
in the midst of writing final papers for seminary, you get this call
Mhm.
from somebody you don't know who's being held by the hotel, whose
Mhm.
passport has been confiscated. He has no money
No money.
and he's desperate. And God used you to open your heart and your home to this young man.
Mhm.
And because of that,
Yeah.
he came to Christ.
Yeah, he came to Christ, and that was kind of a great turning point for him, not only for him, but the entire Nepali community, the student in the seminary and the other student, we ministered together. It was, kind of the new chapter of our life. And I started attending the small group and church service, and he got baptized there almost for a year. And he got disciple, and finally he returned back to Nepal, and he started involved in the Christian ministry initially and served the Lord.
And he had
And
a lot of persecution from his family
yes, of course,
because
yeah.
they were not happy that he began to follow Christ.
No, no, not at all. And he's afraid to go back to his family, and he stayed in Kathmandu, you know.
How is he doing? How is he doing now?
Oh, now, and after that, he got married to a woman. She's a pastor's kid, and that was God's plan. They
A
met
pastor's
each
kid.
other. Yeah, uh,
Yeah.
and and now he's serving as one of the church leaders and Harvey's director for Nepal. And he has started, helped started the school for many needy, and
Wow.
I think 5-6 schools. And he also started his private children's school like us, what we did, and he is really greatly impacting that area. On the other hand, he is also doing, he's following the same way that I was doing the ministry. We started this school, he started this school. We are this bivocational, he's serving the bivocational. Yeah, I didn't tell him to do that, but yeah, and now he's doing much, much, much more than what we did back in Nepal. He has, I think, 670 schools, and he's running the guest house. He's running a travel business. Yeah, so many things, and he's serving the Lord. It's like a kind of businessman. He doesn't get any. Yeah, it's more. It's like a self-supporting guy.
Wow. We were interviewing a brother named Corey a few weeks ago, and he
Mhm.
was saying how, he was busy and he was tired, and he had problems writing a sermon, and He was running out of time, and God said, so he went for a walk, and God said, see that homeless gentleman there?
Mm-hmm.
You go and take care of him. And Corey was thinking, bad timing, Lord, bad timing, But I mean, for you, with your father's passing and the grief from that,
Mm-hmm.
financial issues, having to write papers for your college, lack of sleep. I mean, those are some of the major physically and mentally exhausting things that can happen to you. How did you feel at this time? You had all of those pressures. What was it that made you make the right decision, and how did you feel?
I think, yeah, I feel like, God talked to our heart and give us kind of compassion. If I don't help this guy, who's gonna help? And what is gonna be his situation? I really need to help whatever I can or I could. Yeah, I thought, first I realized they were just expecting some financial help, and we're not in that situation. And my wife, actually, she also joined in the first meeting. Said that, "Oh, you have not slept the whole night. I think it's not a good idea for you to go alone. Let's go together." And she was there, uh, and and we realized, just go and listen to them, even though we don't have much resources to help with him. But yeah, and once we heard his story, and that's really touched our heart, and we realized, why don't we call back to their family in Nepal? And that really worked out, and they sent some money that was helpful, and we gave it to the hotel. It was not a full bill, but maybe it
Yeah.
covered 50%. But hotel allowed him to get out of the hotel. But that another guy was literally, he was imprisoned inside the hotel. Yeah, he was
Wow.
there for, I think, more than a month. There's another story. We also
Wow.
helped getting out of there.
That one act of obedience from you to Christ has led this brother to start these schools and all of these programs and sharing God's love. It's amazing what happens when we're obedient to Christ. What are you up to now, Bishnu? What activities do you do now?
Now, I'm serving a church, the refugee church here in Phoenix, Himland Community Mission Church, for last 8 years.
And
And yeah,
how are you and your church serving as the hands and feet of Jesus in Phoenix?
in Phoenix, the scenario here in the United States is different than Nepal. Um, yeah, I always teach people that that Jesus told us that he summarized all the commandments and the law of the Old Testament in two commandments: love your God and love your neighbor. And Paul, the Apostle Paul, he in Galatians 5:14, he said that everything is summarized in one commandment: loving your neighbor. So our love should be reflected, through some action. Yeah. So a couple of things we are doing here as a pastor, especially my wife and me. When we go and visit the families, whether they are Christian or Hindus, we help them for us, like especially filling out the forms. Sometimes they have a problem with the relation problem, husband and wife, and some young people, they are really not doing good in their schools, and we talk to them. And that's inside the church. And we also had a mom's project that's um, expressing our loves to the refugee community in the valley. So one time we visited one of our church members. She just had the baby at the hospital, but she didn't know um, that they require a car seat to get the baby home or take the baby home. And we just went to the store and bought the car seat and give it to the family. And we realized, why don't we do something to help those families who are having the first baby in the United States. And we started the Moms Project, and we provided almost maybe 30 families who are having the first baby in the United States, the car seat. And we invite them to the church and give them the car seat and some other stuff and teach them some useful things, That's most of them are non-Christians. Yeah. And even they visited their family. And so because of that, number of families, they started coming to Christ. That's one area. The second area, we are also doing the same thing, what we're doing back in the Philippines, even in Nepal and here. When we bought the house, and we told the Lord that we really want to open this house and serve the people they need it, and we hosted the families, number of families who got the green card visa to come to the United States, and they needed somebody to host until they get their the documents, their green card and their social security and other stuff. They have to learn the driving and find a job, and once they have a job, they can get their place, apartment. And
So
move
Bishnu,
out.
you've hosted them. Does that mean you bring them into your home?
No, it's completely free. Yeah,
Oh,
just we.
what's free? Do you bring them into your home?
Yeah,
I mean, do they live?
yeah. When they come to the United States, I think the two families we knew them back in Nepal, but I think three other families we never knew them, and we had a connection through the email, and they requested we need a place. Once they landed in the United States, and they need a place to go, whether the hotel or the families. Normally, the government requires a family because they have to have a place where to get the documents, green card and social security, all those secured. And yeah, we hosted them. And almost for 2 months. The
And
maximum
how much rent did you charge them?
zero, nothing, because they didn't have any income, and yeah.
Right. Yeah. Okay. We've run out of time, but I just want to say what an encouragement it has been to us to hear how God has led you and your wife and your children to be so open-handed to people who come, who arrive in the States with nothing. You bring them into your home, you feed them, and you help them with the documentation they need. This truly is an example of what it means to be the hands and feet of Jesus. Vishnu, thank you so much for your story and for inspiring us. And I trust that those who are watching will ask the Lord, Lord, show me what you want me to do. God bless you, brother.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Bob, for this opportunity. God bless you. Bye-bye.
Bye.